Hello and welcome back to another video with It's Dr. Dan. And today we're going to be learning about how to prepare for the Chemistry 3A ACS Final, which is for Introductory Chemistry. So first off, congratulations for making it to the very end of your Introductory Chemistry course. And you're ready to prepare for the final stretch of the semester, which is studying for your exam. So with this series of videos, what the entire point is that I'm going to try to do my best to prepare you for that exam so that way you can do the best that's possible for you and your abilities for what you've learned across the course of the semester. So what this whole thing is going to be about is that this is going to be a series of videos which is going to focus on how to break down ACS style questions, specifically focusing on introductory chemistry, which is our Chem 3A course right here at our school. So what these will mainly be is based on the fundamentals of chemistry, but this is a lot of these different questions that we're going to go over can be applied to chemistry 1 or chemistry 1A, chemistry 110 at different schools. They can apply to them as well. So in this particular video, we're going to go specifically on what to expect when you walk in on your final exam date, what the format is, and what you should do to study and prepare for it. In the follow-up videos to come, they will be more on individual tests that are tailored to replicate ACS tests. So that way you know exactly what to expect and how to study for them, and how I kind of go through the process of trying to play the game that is known as a standardized exam. So let's take a look. Let's try to learn and try to do our best on this exam. And once again, well, congrats to making it to the end. Let's finish strong as we move forward. So the first thing is that this what your final is the standardized exam, which is written by the American Chemical Society, also known as the ACS. Now, what this exam is for is to evaluate students on a national scale. So your exam score is going to be compared to those from people all across the country in all kinds of different areas of the country. Now, what this test is used for our class, that we're going to be focusing on the general organic and biochemistry type of exam, which is known as our Chem 3A and then our Chem 3B course. So you're going to be just doing the general portion of it. So you're going to be doing that subtest. Now, for anyone that is a chemistry or a biology or an engineering major that has to move forward into other courses, you're going to see this type of exam again in Gen Chem 1 and in Organic 1 and 2 as well. Now, what this whole idea is for us doing this is the one is to evaluate your knowledge so that way we can see where do you stand up to other students coming from the same background as you. And one thing that we do with that information is we use it to try to improve our courses and to improve our program, right? So that's one of the ideas behind a lot of those results is actually kind of what helps spawn one of the things that helped spawn this YouTube channel was because I wanted to find new ways to help my students to try to succeed into the next level. So this is all to prepare you for that next step so you know how to do standardized testing. Especially for all of many of my future nurses out there, many of you will have to take the TEAS exam, which does have standardized chemistry, biology, mathematics questions on that test. So you need to be able to know how to critically evaluate and think your way through those type of questions. So when it comes to this, what we're going to be doing is the general chemistry subtest. So the portion of this that you're going to be taking is 60 questions that has to be completed in 55 minutes, which you're probably saying to yourself, is he for real? That is insane. And the thing is, you probably have heard a lot of your professors have said this recently, whether it's me or if you're in another class watching this, that is a lot. So what you're gonna have to learn is not only your chemistry knowledge, but different strategies to make it easier. The thing is with standardized tests, a lot of them are actually doable with whether or not you really know the entire concept. It's about being a good test taker, not only a good chemist. So when we're looking at this, now the good thing is that this entire test is all multiple choice. And the thing is, it is designed to be solvable. Every question is designed to be solvable in less than a minute. So it's meant to be fast. So when we break down this test, you're going to see that about half the questions are going to be calculation based, meaning that you're going to need to use your calculator to solve them, or it might be something that you can kind of get the answer with without even looking at using your calculator, or it's going to be a theory based question. So something that has to do with a conceptual understanding. Now, the thing about this is you cannot use a programmable calculator on the test, meaning that if you're someone who has like a TI-83 or like a TI-84, you can't use them. But you are welcome to use your TI-36 calculator, which is kind of what we always go through and how we actually work this exam. This is allowed because you can't program it, input any function that you want in it. So keep that in mind. If you are someone that has a fancy calculator, you're going to have to switch it out. So if you need to do that, make sure you talk to your instructor prior to the exam, tell them that you need to switch it out. Usually they're kept in every one of the classrooms in the science building, but to ensure that you do have one, definitely make sure you ask. Now, every instructor is a little bit different on how they actually enforce this one, but I would recommend making sure you clarify that you can use your calculator on the test. If you're not sure, ask. If it's a Casio calculator, usually you're fine. It's all the high number TI calculators that you got to watch out for. Now, the other thing you got to do when you come to that day on the exam, phones and bags, they all need to be placed in the front of the classroom, out of the way. Usually, your teacher will have a place where these can go. Now, when it comes to taking out an exam, this is a standardized test. It's not like a normal exam. The instructor is responsible for making sure that it's kept behind locked doors and that essentially none of that information escapes. So, one thing that you will have to do is you need to have an ID or a phone or a wallet ready to go that can be used as collateral to exchange for that test. So, if when you're given your test booklet, you'll just give them, let's say your ID, and they'll hold on to it for the test period and you get it back at the end. It's a pretty easy exchange process. Whenever you take your test, you're always given a piece of scrap paper to go with it. Usually you're given 2 to 3 pieces, so that way you have them ready. And now the whole reason is because you cannot write in the exam book. So you're given scrap paper to write anything you want on them. And that's also the reason why you give your ID as well to double check that, hey, you did not write in this thing when you were given it. Okay. So when you show up, make sure you have the right calculator. Don't write in the book, and you can write all over the scrap paper. You will need a Scantron to do this test. So for everybody, you need a Scantron 95677 when you take this type of test. It's most likely the same Scantron you've been taking using all semester. If you've been doing other in-person regular paper exams with Scantrons, it's most likely the same one. Make sure you double check with your instructor that it is the same one. For me, you can check my exam review guides, but for other ones, make sure you check their exam review. But generally, we all use the Scantron 95677 for Chem 3A exams. Okay, let's take a look at the next part. So now that you're about to take the exam, what is provided for you to be able to take it? The thing is that this is the scariest part is up until this point, you've been given a ton of reference material in order to succeed on your regular semester exams. You might have been given a note card, you might have been given a periodic table, you might have been given the yellow reference sheet, maybe your solubility chart. On the final, you don't get any of that. The only thing you can have is essentially what is given to you, which one of them is the periodic table. Now, I copied an exact version of that periodic table from this ACS test. So if you want to use this as a template, feel free to do that. This is something that I will include in my study resources. And if you want to message me, I can give you a copy of it. But it is a bare bones periodic table, meaning that notice if you kind of zoom in on any of these elements, they only have the following piece of information. They only have the atomic symbol or the elemental symbol in all these, right? So we have the symbol, we have the atomic number, and then we have the atomic mass. And that is all you are given for any of these different species. You have no electronegativity values, you have no charges. You are given the basic pieces of information, right? So as you're kind of going through these, you got to kind of remember what all these different pieces of information, what they all represent when you are kind of writing your different symbols and how to actually read them for how to calculate your protons, electrons, and neutrons. Same thing with your number of valence electrons. So notice as well that it has the old school archaic 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A groups. So one little trick about this is those represent the number of valence electrons that are for any of your species. That is something I would recommend writing down because I can guarantee you there will be a question about valence electrons, and you have to be able to read that old school periodic table to do that. You can also help use it for your charges too. Remember, if you the total number of valence electrons is always 8. So if you just do 8 minus that group number, you will get what the charge is. So if you think like 8 minus 8, that's 0. 8 minus or 7 minus 8 would be -1. 6 minus 8 would be -2. 5 minus 8 would be -3. And that can give you a lot of your charges too. So make sure you practice using a simple periodic table. Other things that you're given a very, very simple list of abbreviations and symbols. Sorry that this is a little skewed, but this is something that is coming out of an old exam, and the scan did not come out so great. So the only thing that it gives you is it tells you, well, okay, well, what does every symbol mean in case maybe you don't remember what it is? So I would get a little familiar with some of the different symbols, right? Know what a mole is, molarity, molar, those different terminology. The two conversions it does give you, which are a little hidden, is kilo, which it tells you it's 10 to the 3, right? So 1 kilogram, for example, is 10 to the 3 grams. And then it also tells you milli, which is on here as well. So what that means is that 10 to the -3 grams is equal to or sorry, when I say 10 to the -3 grams, is that 1 gram is equal to 1,000 milligrams, or 10 to the -3 going the other way as well. So it gives you those types of conversions, which sometimes is helpful, but by this point in the class, you should already know them, right? So it doesn't give you much. It also gives you the R constant, which if there's a constant you need, it's always given to you. So if you do see a constant, then maybe it might let you know what that is. It also tells you like if there's any weird notation, like grams per mole. You notice the negative is letting you know, hey, this is in a fraction. So there's not much. Now, the other thing is there's no formulas that are given to you on this test either. And you might be like, hold up, what? Like, this is already impossible. So the first thing is you can't give up on this test, right? One of the things about it is for many of you, this might be the kind of the make it or break it point when it comes to either passing or maybe getting the grade that you really do deserve because you've been working your butt off all semester to either get an A or a B or C or whatever grade you deserve. It is something you can't give up now. The good news is there's not many formulas you need, and I put together the list of exactly what formulas you do need for the final exam. So the first thing is a lot of these are the fundamentals. They're things that you did in your lab practical. They're things you've been using all semester in different labs a lot. The first one is your density, right? Knowing your density is grams per milliliter. That is one of the most core fundamental concepts. You've been using it in probably 3 or 4 different labs, and you know it. Molar mass, right? Grams over moles. You've had to use that since chapter 5, and it's now chapter 14. That's about 3 months of using it. There's also the following as well. You have the dilution formula, so knowing when to dilute something, knowing molarity, knowing your temperature conversions, knowing the heat equation, which is Q is equal to the MCAT equation, Q is equal to MC delta T, and then your gas laws. Luckily, it's mainly comes down to these two, which is the ideal gas law and the combined gas law. And we'll talk about when each one of them is applied as we go through our chapter analysis of what you need to know exactly in order to ace this test. I also placed Dalton's law here as well because it is a good thing to understand either the mole and pressure ratios that come along with it too. So this is all of the formulas that you do need to know. So if you can memorize this list, you will do just fine on knowing any of the different calculations. But that's not everything, right? Stoichiometry is a big part too. So you need to be able to do simple types of calculations with that as well. So The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to be going through the exact step by step process and going through every chapter that was covered in Chem 3A. And we'll talk about exactly what topics you need to study in order to answer everything on the upcoming test that you will be taking. This is a general list. This is something that's going over multiple different generations of this test, so that way you know exactly what you need to know to study for your test, what's expected for you to know at this point. So when you're doing this, the other thing to keep in mind is all these questions are something that's doable in a minute. So they are short questions, so you're not going to have to do some crazy 30-step long problem that takes you from a solution to a gas back to mass with limiting reagents and balancing and doing all these different steps. They're mainly 1 to 2 step problems that are quicker to do. Before we go into the next part, let's talk about some more things as before that. The first thing is what comes up about what else do you have to memorize? I would recommend memorizing your normal polyatomics, which is mainly the ones with the 8 endings. The most common are nitrate, carbonate, sulfate. I would memorize their charges and what they look like, and then hydroxide, being that's a part of almost every single base. So these are your most common polyatomics that will be used. The other thing that can be helpful as well is memorizing what an acid looks like, right? An acid starts with an H and then a base ends in a hydroxide. So knowing acids and bases, if you know your strong acids and bases, you will do just fine. But if you want to add that to the list as well, things to put on a flashcard for yourself, it will help you be able to study. Let's look at how this exam is going to be graded. Now, for the next part of how it's going to be graded, this is something that tells you the honest truth of really what happens behind the scenes when it comes to your faculty grading this exam. So, with this, it is based off the national average of the exam, which is what's generally used to determine whether or not you pass. Usually, what we do is it's ultimately always up to your professor. They have the academic right to be able to decide what your final grade is. But generally, what is used is depends on what the average is. The average is usually used to determine what is generally a mid C grade. So let's say if the average is 30 points, so right in the middle, that's usually determined to say that's average, right? So that's around, let's say, a 75%. So usually what I always tell my students to do is try to shoot for half of them correctly. Now, when you're doing this exam, it is not like a normal exam. You are not supposed to get 100% correct. Generally, when we are grading this, if you get probably above, usually it's about over 50 questions correct, out of 60 of them. This is generally considered an A grade on the exam. So the goal is not to get 100%, but to answer as many as you can correctly, right? So go through all of them, answering what you know first. It's about scoring points. It's like a game that you're playing. It's all about like what is the standard in this case, right? It's all about can I try to get onto the right hand side of this bell curve when we are scoring, right? So if you can get more and more points by answering what you do know, it can help try to solidify your grade into that better category. If you end up like looking at it and essentially just turning off and be like, oh, there's no way I'm pretty much failed this, that's not going to help you. It's not going to help anything. It's just going to put you into the bad category. So when you're taking it, if you don't know something, yes, and move on. You can always come back to it later if there's time. Being that you have 55 minutes, you have to answer as many things quickly as you can. And a lot of the problems are really quick, they don't even involve math. So if you know your fundamentals and your basics, then you should be fine. So if you don't know it, move on and just guess. It's advantageous, meaning it's in your benefit to answer as many things as possible because you're not deducted for answering more questions. You're only deducted if you essentially don't put anything, right? So you need to put as much as you can. And the good thing is, when you're answering a lot of these questions, you can eliminate usually 1 or 2 choices because the numbers are completely outside the realm of possibility. They're not even close to where they're supposed to be. It's concepts that don't exist when it comes to a theory. They're names you've never seen before. So you can eliminate choices, take educated guesses. You've been taking a chem course now for 18 weeks. You can succeed and do this. You just got to believe in yourself, just like how I believe in you. It's something that's entirely possible. Do the best that you can while you're going to go through it. So keep that in mind while you're trying to understand all these questions. Now let's go through chapter by chapter of what was covered in this class throughout the different weeks of what you need to study in order to review your knowledge. Now keep in mind a lot of these different topics that we're going to cover, you might have forgotten a lot of them, right? You've been lately probably been focusing on balancing chemical reactions, stoichiometry, and acids and bases, the insanely hard topics, but you probably forgotten that in the past you did some easy things too, which were maybe just counting protons, neutrons, electrons, trying to just figure out some little geometry things, the more simple counting things. Now you got to make sure you remember them so you can get those points and ensure you get the easier questions. So that was the end of part one of this video. Being that it was going a little long, I decided to cut it into two pieces. So at the end of part one, we went through the entire exam and exactly what to expect. In the follow up part, we're going to go through the exact chapter by chapter synopsis of what to study for that part of the exam. If you'd like to, I did link in the Chem 3A section of my channel all the different chapters which are covered. So I have play essentially, if you go onto the homepage, you look at the playlist, you'll see that I have organized by chapter this course. So you can go through and watch any video on any topic that we cover in that video to help you better master every single thing. Now keep in mind watching videos is fantastic, but the real practice comes from you doing the problems. So when we're going through the different parts of this review series, I recommend trying to pause it, try to do the problem on your own, and then you can watch the video to be able to see like what the actual questions are. But thank you for listening. I really appreciate you for doing this. Hopefully, it helps you study and to do really well on your on your final. And let me know if you do need any help as we start to go through this journey together. All right, let's take a look, and I'll see you guys all in the future videos. And thank you so much for listening and watching. All right, I'll see y'all later. Bye now.